This is the TriSwimCoach podcast, where the most difficult leg of the triathlon becomes your friend, leaving your struggles and your competition behind you. TriSwimCoach.com, helping you to laugh at the water.
All right, welcome to TriSwimCoach. This is Kevin, and this is episode number 127. And I'm joined today by Coach Chris Hague. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Kev.
How's it going?
It's good. Winter has come, and with that, I think everyone is starting to, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, I know we do have some Southern Hemisphere athletes who are finally emerging from their hibernation in their training caves. But I guess in the Northern Hemisphere, we're kind of buckling down and starting to wind down our seasons and start focusing on the off season.
Yeah, that's right. This is the off season for a lot of people, although we do have a lot of Australian listeners who are probably like, why do you guys keep talking about the off season? I'm just like getting my whole season started here. And I know there's a lot of races coming up in Australia, like all over the place, like down in December, January, February. Those are big months for races.
Yeah, I think Taupo is coming up in New Zealand, which is a big race. And then in February, I think there's Western Australia. So yeah, their season's heating up. But I find that the beginning of the off season is very similar to the beginning of the race season. Right. Because you're setting goals, you're figuring out what you need to work on, you're figuring out, where you are and what you need to do to achieve your goals in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So while, the structure might be slightly different, I think the goal setting and the mindset's very similar.
Yeah, and I think the Endurance Nation, who we've done some things with, they don't call it the off season, they call it the out season, which I think is, it makes sense because it's off season almost sounds like you're off. You're totally just taking all this time off and letting everything go. But that's not what we really want to talk about here. So,
yeah, I like the term preseason. Yeah. I guess that just goes back to kind of like my college days, because you are either in preseason for cross country, preseason for swimming, preseason for track, or in the actual season. Like there was no off season. It was just in season and preseason for the next event. Yeah. So it's just it's focusing, laying the foundation for what's to come.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to look at it. So now you wrote an article, and this was probably 2-3 weeks ago, and it's called Level Up Your Swim, and it's on the TriSwimCoach blog. So we'll have a link to this in the show notes. But it was a great article, in my opinion, and I thought it outlined a lot of the things that are issues that I think people think about a lot in terms of like, what should you focus on in swimming for triathlon?
Yeah, like what I got it from is I was reading a couple articles online about, and actually a couple forums on people saying, if you just swim more, your stroke will take care of itself and you'll get faster. And then other people saying, no, you need to spend months and months of, doing drills and just focus on drills and your form and just focus on your form. And then you can focus on endurance. And it got me frustrated because I found that it was so polar in the thinking there that, it's going to be different depending on where you're at currently with your swim fitness, which prompted me to write the article, because I see, and this is just kind of based off of the people we've worked with and the people I've worked with in the pool, and just kind of in general, the buckets that people fall into when it comes to what they need to work on based off of time. Now, obviously, these are very general buckets. Obviously, like if you're a 2:15 swimmer per 100 meter or per 100 yards, you might have slightly different form issues than if you're a 1:30, or even within the same bucket of groups or within the same speed levels, you might have slightly different issues with your form. You might be dropping your elbows, your breathing might be off, but in general, I find these different levels, you're going to be in the same focus, that you need to focus around one thing to get faster. So that's what prompted me to write the article, is that, it's not about doing more volume. It's not about nothing but drills. It depends on where you are with your swim fitness.
Yeah, I think this speaks to just generally how people are tribalistic. So they want to jump into one camp or the other. And it's like, oh no, drills are stupid. Drills are a waste of time. And it's like, you're supposed to defend that by saying, no, we should be doing drills like all the time. And it's like, yeah, there could be some sort of middle ground. And I think you outlined it really well with going through the paces, because there's so many different levels and so many different things to focus on. And it's almost like saying that triathlon swimmers should train just like 50-meter sprint swimmers or something like that, where it's like, no, there's different levels and different things you should focus on, or that would be helpful to focus on depending on where you are. So I guess we can go through like you've got 1, 2, 3, 5 levels, and we can just go through each one and talk about what should people be focused on in each level, and what makes kind of the most sense for in terms of like drills versus training versus amount of yardage or meters or whatever in each level.
Sure. So I guess starting with level 1, that's going to be people who I find typically are if you're swimming on average above 2 minutes per 100 meters or 100 yards. And that's the issues I see most common in this group of swimmers is it's going to be their balance in the water, and that automatically ties into how they're breathing and when they're breathing, because I find that their breathing's off, that they're lifting their head to breathe, or they're holding their breath until they can't hold it anymore,
right,
and then gasp for air, and all of that's throwing off the rhythm, and they're splashing around in the water, and they get to they do one length and need to stop because of all these different issues with their mechanics. So I think that's the biggest issue in this group is going to be form. And the solution to that is, I think the first thing is to focus on your form. And I think the perfect place to start with that is a video analysis of it to figure out what you need to work on. And part 2 of that is getting into the water more consistently. Mm-hmm. I think if you're in this group, you're not going to see the gains and improvements that you want by getting into the pool twice a week, or sometimes even 3 times a week. I think you need to be consistently getting into the pool 3, 4, maybe even 5 times a week until you get more comfortable in the water. Mm-hmm. Now that's not to say that you're going to be swimming 2,000 to 3,000 meters or yards per session. These are very specific sessions, focusing on your form, focusing on building your comfort in the water, getting in the water and just kind of enjoy being there, and also working on the form enhancements that you figure out that you need to work on based off of your video analysis.
Yeah, for sure. The video can tell you so much, especially if you can get an underwater shot, but even over the water, you can really find out a lot. And I think because most people, and the majority of people, are visual learners. So to see yourself on video, even if you're just getting where you are now, that is even helpful. But then to get coaches to give you feedback and tell you like kind of what you need to do, it sort of it allows you to make sense of the drills. So if you're just doing drills and you don't know why you're doing them, it can get kind of monotonous, and a lot of people aren't able to stick with it. So yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. So number 2, I guess we can move to that one. 145 to 2 minutes per 100. And I guess 100 meters, when you get into this range, like now it becomes a difference. Like, is it 100 meters or is it 100 yards? Because 145 meters and 145 yards are quite different.
Yeah, and I typically find if you're doing the conversion, it's about 10 seconds, depending on your flip turn prowess between yards and meters. So if you're swimming 145 meters, you're most likely going to be in that 135 yard range if you want to do the quick conversion. So I think it's more yards. If you're in the 145 yards range to 2 minutes. So I guess we can stick with that.
We'll stick with the American version of this article.
Yeah. American. But here it's not necessarily, you've got comfort in the water. You're more familiar with the swim stroke and what should go into a good swim stroke, but you need to continue to fine tune it. And this is where like redoing a video analysis will help, because chances are your form has changed since when you first got it done. So your form and balance might be off when you're in that level 1, but here your balance might be good, but it could be your catch and your pull that needs working on, or it could be working on your kick and making sure that you're rotating as you kick and how your body rotates in the water, or the lack of communication between your upper body and lower body. So your legs are swimming and that core engagement's off. So that's where I find that the most issues come up for this level 2 swimmer, is that your form is almost there. You just need to continue to fine tune it. At the same time, though, you need to be starting to increasing your yards, increasing your volume. So that ratio of drill to volume is going to start to switch and lean towards the volume rather than just pure form work. So you want to figure out, going back to what we were talking about in level 1, you're not doing drills for drill's sake, but you're actually learning what that feels like when you're doing the drills and incorporating that into your swim.
So yeah, you're kind of flipping, like you said, you're kind of flipping it to more you're doing more distance and a little less on the drills than you were when you were back in the 2 minutes or above category. And to the credit of people, or is the word credit, or to the point of the people that are saying, no, just do volume and forget about drills. Your stroke will just come together on its own. To that point, it does sort of make sense, because you start to get more balance in the water the more you're swimming. And even if you're not really focused on balance, you'll still improve your balance just by getting in the pool and doing a workout. So that does make some sense there. And that's where on this level 2, that comes into play a little more. So you're still doing the drills, but you're increasing that volume and getting more out of your stroke with every workout you do.
Yeah, along those lines, I think also the more you swim, the more comfort you have with putting your face down in the water and feeling the bubbles and breathing into the water rather than holding your breath. And that's going to take 5 to 10 seconds off your average time instantly, because your form's going to be better and you're more relaxed. So that, I think, for volume, that's where volume comes into play in this level, is that it allows you to be more comfortable and relaxed in the water.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so now we're dropping down to number 3, and that's the kind of 130 to 145 per 100. A few other issues there, right?
So here, I think the most prominent issues with this group is the catch and the pull, and then also syncing the upper body with the lower body. So I see with a lot of these swimmers, they might have a straight arm going down into the water, so there's no bend in their elbow, and that's just going to be a lot. Like, their hand enters the water and just pretty much shoots straight down, extends out as if they're petting the bottom of the pool, and then they bring it around and slap the water again and repeat. That's, I think, one of the major problems. And the second major problem is that their kick is not synchronized with their upper body. So their lower body might be swaying. They might be, their legs are splaying when they're kicking. So they get that scissor kick action. And then also it's their lower body swaying back and forth. So almost like a pendulum as they swim back. And that's going to create drag and slow you down. So I think to get to the next level from this level, it's focusing on improving your catch and your pull, and then also making sure that you focus on syncing up and engaging your whole body with each stroke. And a good drill to actually do this is, single arm drill. So as you, with one arm pinned to your side, just swim and stroke with your other arm, focusing on that catch and pull. But at the same time, you're able to focus on what your lower body is doing at the same time, in conjunction with your stroke.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm actually at this level now, I have to admit, because I took some time off from swimming and I'm starting to swim again. And I'm in kind of this range, and it is really hard to do the high elbow catch. Like, it's really not something that, like, I was doing it before, and now I'm not. It's not natural for me. I have to think every single stroke. I have to think about that high elbows. And so, yeah, like doing that one arm drill, that's a good reminder. I should probably get back into that. But, you can also just do some catch up drills. And with each stroke, you're just thinking about your elbow and kind of making sure that your pull you're actually getting propulsion on your pull and not just like dropping your arm every time. So yeah, those are some things to work on.
And another thing, and this links into level 4, because what I also start to see here that's holding people back from getting faster is that they have a mono speed swim. So the speed that their catch and pull phase is the exact same as the recovery. So it's just a very slow and methodical placement, and they're focusing very, very hard on that high elbow catch and pull and recovery, but it's just one speed instead of accelerating through the pull. So one thing that you want to be sure of when you're focusing on doing, your catch-up drills is that it's not all one speed, that you're accelerating quickly with that pull straight back instead of just gliding through the water.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think you've written another article talking about the glide and how it's like when you're gliding, then you're actually slowing down. And that's something that some people get mixed up with that. It's like you want to have that long extension and have a long stroke, but actual glide is when your body is slowing down in the water. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, so with regards to the glide, when you don't let your hand, that's where the acceleration really comes into play, is because if you're accelerating that hand as you pull back, you're not going to be gliding. You're constantly in motion.
Right, exactly. Okay, so now the last one, the fastest group here.
Or the second to last. We're on level 4 and 5, but they're very, very similar.
They're very similar. Okay, let's start with 4 then.
Because here it's less about form and more about volume. If you're in, we're in the level 4 is the 120 to 130 range. And the forms, technically, if you're in this range, you're either really good at muscling through 100 meters or 100 yards, but chances are you're burning a lot of energy to do it, or your form is pretty good. It's just you're not doing it frequently enough. So here, most of the time, you got to build your volume, and you got to make sure that your workouts are structured towards what's holding you back from getting faster. So if you come from a sprinting background and you can do a 50 or 100 meters very quickly, but when you look at your 500 to 1,000 meter time and it's a lot slower and your average is a lot slower than what you were doing, chances are you need to work on your endurance and doing longer sets. And on the flip side, if you find that you kind of have one speed, regardless of whether you're sprinting or whether you're doing long endurance sets, then you need to work on, getting that turnover more so that you can speed up have a more variety of gears that you can swim at.
Yeah. And so at this point, I think this is where you could say that the interval training becomes even more important, right?
Yeah. And I think, getting a variety of different intervals in, ranging from 25-meter sprints all the way up to 500-meter repeats, because I assume if you're swimming at the speed, you've built up quite an amount of endurance that you're able to do, repeats for longer and longer distances. But you want that nice variety. You just don't want to get into the pool and constantly swim at one pace for an hour and then get out. You want to be getting into the pool consistently, and you want to be varying the workouts to keep that, different, keeping your body guessing with different stimulus.
Yeah, that's it. Because like right now, I've kind of switched phases from before, like the last, I'd say, I guess, month before, I was just getting in just to get in some laps. I mean, that was it. I wasn't doing any intervals. I was just trying to get as many laps as I could kind of handle. And then now I've switched into doing laps, in some yardage plus intervals. And as I go forward, it'll be more important to do less of that long, LSD swimming, long, slow distance, and more of the actually doing sets. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something to keep in mind. But okay, so now we can move on to number 5, which is the 120 and below fitness group.
Yeah, and this, I think, ties in right back into level 4, is that you need to boost the volume. Obviously, you've plateaued and you're not getting faster because you're not challenging your body enough. So it goes back to, making sure that you've got the intervals in there, making sure that you're boosting your volume so that you're challenging your body, challenging your mind, and you're able to hold good form for longer and longer sets. So whether that's, adding in some toys like a drag suit, or even, binding your legs just to give you an extra challenge, you need to change up the stimulus to make your body adapt and get faster.
Yeah. And you mentioned some of the tools like doing dryland work, which we're really big on, especially this time of year here. It's like a great time to do things out of the water, like strength training and things like that. And then using the power rack, which is, that's a piece of equipment that's been around forever. When I was in college, we had one of those. And
for those of you who don't know, imagine like a weight tower, like what you do for like lap pull downs at the gym, where you can drop the pin down to add on the weight, and then that attaches to a cord that you put around your waist, the swimmer's waist, and then you set the weight and you tell the swimmer to go, and the swimmer sprints as fast as they can while raising the weight because they're tied to it with their belt. So if you're at this level, I think it might be time to, change up and add in some extra challenges and some extra fun by incorporating stuff like this.
Yeah, and of course the Vasa SwimErg, which we love.
Oh yeah.
So that's another one you can get on if you're, especially again, off season, out season, preseason, whatever you want to call it. This is a great time to do that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And, I'm doing like I found the sweet spot is 2 pool swims a week and then 2 Vasa workouts a week. Yeah. And that right now is kind of I'm seeing some great improvements with that. And just in the last, I think, 2 months of just doing that, my times for each 100 have gone down significantly. So I've leveled up through that, thankfully.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, that's. It's a great way to save time too. It really. It's like it sounds like a lot, but it's like this is how you save time with swim training. It's like you don't have to go to the pool and change and shower, all that stuff. You just do it right there if you have one of those Vasa ergs in your house.
Yeah, you just throw on your shorts and hop on the bench. You're like, there is no excuse.
That's right.
And that's a huge, because you don't realize how much time you waste driving to the pool, getting changed, getting in the pool, waiting for a lane to open up, and then, flip turns and resting on the wall. Like, it can be significant. And, 30 minutes on the Vasa SwimErg is, comparable to like a 45 to 60 minute swim, just because of all that extra time saved. And, there's no flip turns, so you don't get any rest. It's efficient.
Yeah. And I'll have a link to the Vasa erg in the show notes here. So if you want to check that out. Yeah, cool. Well, that wraps up our Level Up Your Swim article. And you can check that out on the TriSwimCoach blog, TriSwimCoach.com/, we'll put the link in the show notes. I don't have to spell it out here. But we wanted to also cover now the second thing on the show. Chris, you just got back actually a few days ago from getting certified with USA Triathlon, right?
Yep. So I went down to Stamford, Connecticut this past weekend for a 2-day certification clinic. And they broke it up with day one being they broke it down into swim, bike, run, and what goes into efficient swim, biking, and running. And then day two, they kind of took a step back and said, all right, this is what you do for a season. This is what you do for a training block. This is what you do for a week. This is how you structure one workout in all three disciplines. So they broke it up nicely with that component. But a lot of good information. I think a lot of the coaches who were there, and there was a good chunk, about 70 to 80 of them, who walked away with with more information, more clarity on how to structure workouts. And with regards to the swim, most of the stuff I already knew just because working with you and just from my own college swim days and also coaching athletes, most of it I already knew. But a couple things that I walked away with is the importance of loving the swim. I think that was the number one thing that I got from the talk on the swim, is the importance of falling in love with the swim and thinking about how we can get our athletes to enjoy swimming more. And especially if you're, and going back to the different levels, especially in the level 1 and 2, you gotta love getting in the pool. And that can be hard because I think a lot of triathletes see the pool as just something that they have to do to be a triathlete. And I think that's a shame because, it's 1/3 of a triathlon. And while it might be shorter in distance and shorter in time than the other components, you got to have a good swim if you want to have a good bike and run. We always say you want to come out of the water with a smile. And not because you finished the swim and you're finally out of the water, but because you did well in the swim and you feel comfortable and you have the confidence to hop on the bike and go for it. So I think one of the things I'm thinking about is how we can get our swimmers more engaged and more loving the swim, whether it's through pool toys or more interesting sets or through more interesting drills. And I also think it comes down to just stepping away from, I got to get down to, I got to level up to level 4, or I'm frustrated because I'm not leveling up. It's more stepping back and saying, what can I do to work on the swim? Making an experiment. Let's see how fast I can get in a shorter period of time if I focus and if I'm diligent. So if I kind of focus on the process part of it instead of I got to get to 130 per 100 yards because that's the Kona qualifying time.
Right. Yeah. I like that they focus on that. I think that's so important. And I've always been that way too. It's like there was a whole thing with don't ever use kickboards, because you shouldn't be on your stomach and it doesn't do anything. But I always thought that kickboards are great for breaking up the workouts. So you're swimming, your head's down, you're doing intervals, and then, okay, let's just do a 200 kick and chat with your neighbor because that makes it fun. I mean, it's who cares? We're not accomplishing necessarily anything except maybe burning a few calories, but it's just something that's fun to do. And then a lot of times, the good master's programs that I've been a part of, we actually do things like relays. At the end of workout, okay, we're going to do relays now. And it's fun and everybody loves it. And you end up, you're doing some sprints there. So it's actually really good for you as well. So.
Yeah, so I think that was the first thing I took away from the swim portion. And the second thing I took away is how to build confidence in open water swimming. And they just briefly, I wish they went into this more just because I think it is such a huge barrier. But a couple good tips that other coaches brought up was, if you don't have access to an open water swim, if you don't have access to a lake, or, if you're just because you're time constrained, like I know a lot of people are, you're not able to get to a lake with other people or with, a significant other to be on a kayak to watch you, because it can be intimidating, swimming at, dark 30 in, a lake with pitch black outside, and you don't know where you're going. So I think it's a huge barrier that we talked about. And some of the things that people brought up were, sign up for a relay. So if the swim is your biggest limiter and you want to get more open water experience, sign up for an early season triathlon and volunteer for the swim and say, that's going to be my workout for the day. I'm going to do the open water swim portion of it, and that's it. So not only do you get that extra fun social time because you're on a relay team, but you also get the open water experience. And then someone also brought up you can look at USA Open Water Swim, the major organization. They've got a huge website of open water swim events that, typically they last all weekend, but with several different distances, and you can sign up for all of them just to get more open water swim experience. So you don't even have to race it. It's just a good way to get into the water more. And also you have that social aspect, and because they have kayakers and everything, it's a safe environment. So you don't need to worry about all the external things that can scare people off from open water swimming, because you're A, around other people, and B, around lifeguards and people on kayaks and stand-up paddle boards ready to rescue you whenever you need it.
Yeah, that's so important. I just talked to a guy that's in our Fit Triathlete program that was training for a race last year and only trained in the pool. I think he jumped in a lake once, but didn't even swim that long. And his race, he said his swim was just awful at the race because he just wasn't ready for the open water portion of it and all that comes with that. So I think that's that's so important. And I remember back in my competitive swimming days, used to swimming all kinds of events in the pool. And then I did an open water swim just for fun. And I thought it would be really easy. I was like, not at all. Mm-hmm. Like I was not ready for that. And all the cold water and the crowds and the current and all that was just like a shock to me.
Yeah. So tying this back to our discussion at the beginning with preseason off, now's the time to start thinking about those, because organizations are starting to post their schedules for next year. Look at what open water swim opportunities you have, whether it's being the swim portion of a relay team. And I can guarantee if you form a relay team, you will be the only one wanting to do the swim portion. So a lot of relay teams will value you as an asset to their team. But, look for events now and schedule them now so that you're able to get that open water swim opportunity before your major race, just to get the experience and have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So any other takeaways from the USAT certification weekend?
Definitely. Another thing they brought up is run more. That was another thing, is that running, if you want to get faster, especially in long course triathlon, you got to build up your durability, and that takes more running. They didn't say anything about swimming more, which I was kind of upset about, because I think the two areas that I think if you want to get faster in long course triathlon is swimming more so that you're able to bike and run faster, and then also running more so that you're able to not slow down as much coming off the bike. So I wish they had talked a little bit more about swimming more and proper swim volume like they did with proper run volume. But that was another takeaway. And then finally, one thing that I wish they did more, and we kind of talked about it briefly, is just interpersonal skills of coaches and how important it is for athletes to find a group of coaches or coaches who know how to talk to their athletes. Because you get a lot of ex-swimmers who they know a lot about swimming, but they don't know anything about how to talk to you or explain how to swim to you. So it's important to find a good coach who has the interpersonal skills to be able to, talk you through how to get in the pool and becoming more confident in the water and reducing your anxiety in the open water. That I think they could have spent a little bit more time on, but they did mention it, which is something.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of times, like if you look at coaches in any sport, a lot of the best coaches were not very good at that sport themselves. Like they weren't at the top of their sport. And a lot of the swim coaches, like over the years, the great college swim coaches, they weren't really even swimmers. Like they maybe swam a little bit, but their skills were in actual coaching, not in being the best at whatever event. So that totally makes sense.
So while experience is important and professional knowledge is important, when you're looking at a program, make sure that you're dealing with people who can communicate well with you and, can teach you how to swim while not making you feel belittled or like you're doing everything wrong. And that's just going to reduce your fun and it's going to make you burn out and not love swimming.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that the psychology part was just barely touched on as far as swimming.
As a master, getting my master's in sports psychology right now, it wasn't really talked about. They definitely took us well through the mechanics of swimming, but they didn't really talk too much about the psychology behind dealing with anxiety and motivation and the psychology behind, why we do what we do and how to switch possibly from extrinsic motivation into intrinsic motivation, which I found disappointing. Because I think that's very important for every level of triathlon is how to cultivate a good motivational climate with surrounding your athletes. Because if you have a good motivational climate, you're going to want to get to the pool. You want to get onto the bike. You want to go out for a run. And you will enjoy the process a lot more rather than thinking, oh, I got to win this race. I got to improve. If I fail, then my loved one might think little or, less of me, or the other people in the squad are going to make fun of me, or all that extrinsic pressure is going to really wreak havoc on your ability to perform. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, there's so much to that. And we could probably do like a webinar at some point on the psychology of swimming or the psychology of triathlon swimming or something. I think that would be a pretty helpful thing to cover.
For sure. So definitely watch your podcast feed in the future because I think we should definitely do that one.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Well, that's a good place to wrap it up. Yeah. I think that's all we had this week. Next time we'll be back on, we'll do some Q&A. We've got some questions piling up and we need to get them answered. So we'll cover that in the next show. So definitely stay tuned. And Chris, have a great week and weekend. All right. Well, it was good chatting and thanks for coming on, and we'll be chatting soon.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to another episode covering swimming and triathlon mastery. To get your free online swim clinic, just go to TriSwimLessons.com. Give us your name and email, and we'll have session number 1 off to you right away. Begin your process of befriending the swim and laughing at the water now.